Hey everybody, my name is Andrew Davis, and you're watching Season 3 of Conversations in Pop Culture, brought to you by my sponsors, Mixon Printing, the smarter way to print. I know printing your creative project can be confusing and stressful, but Mixon's here to make it easy. From their instant quote calculator to let you get as many quotes as you want for free, to their 24-hour customer service support, Mixon's here to make sure your printing experience runs smoothly from start to finish. And right now, you can choose from a range of premium printing options and materials, and the company has also printed so many successful Kickstarter campaigns, a bunch of them you have even heard about on this very show. And they currently offer services in the United States, Canada, Australia, and the UK, and Mixum can print and reach your audience anywhere in the world. So if you're ready to print smarter, not harder, head over to Mixum.com. And right now they're running a promotion where listeners of my show can drop my name, Andrew Davis, in a message tab of a current order to get a 5% discount on your first order. So that is mixam.com. Again, type my name, Andrew Davis, in the message tab of your current order to receive a 5% discount on your first order. And without further ado, I have with me comic creator, director, filmmaker, PhD holder, musician, Alton Simpson. So welcome to the show.
Well, Andrew, glad to be here, man. I'm sorry for the delay. Um, let's talk.
Yeah, no, I am very, very excited to have you on because you got a lot of stuff going on, and I'm probably not going to get to like 90% of what you do, but I do want to talk about comics. And you are
Cool.
fully funded on Kickstarter with Vampires in New Jersey, issue 8.
Yeah,
But before we get into all that, because a bunch of my audience probably doesn't know anything about Vampires of New Jersey, what is the
right.
basic premise of the comic? Because this is issue 8 at this point.
Yeah, vampires versus the mob. So the elevator pitch is it's like True Blood versus Sopranos. So, and that's grown over the 8 issues to where, we have werewolves, we have witches, we have the Vatican's involved. It's going to be a lot of different factions. So it's getting more fun as it goes.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on where you basically have a story that started almost 2 generations ago,
Right.
and they want to sacrifice, their 25-year-old grandson because of a
Hmm.
vampiric curse, for lack of a better word. And now it's a whole big quest, and it's just spinning out of that pretty much.
Right.
And people are not what they are. There's vampires, there's people who just want chaos, and
Yeah.
a lot of shit's going on, for lack of a better word.
It's like the real world. Yeah.
And so obviously I've read parts of it. I picked up some of this stuff, and I've obviously read and gone backwards and read some reviews on all this stuff. So I haven't read everything. But
Cool.
where did this even come from? Because it is such a cool idea. And
Uh, yeah, go. When I was doing a film called "Who's Jose Luck," there was a first film, full length film that I wrote that was in and produced and directed partially, and I think I died in there too because it was a low level mob film like Usual Suspects. Um, I remember being on the set, and one of the lead guys came in, and he just was like, "Dude, have you seen True Blood?" And I was like, "No, I haven't seen True Blood." He's like, "Oh my God, it's got blood, it's got sex, you got to see it." Well, we finished the movie. It got in the Philadelphia Independent Film Festival. It ended up streaming on Amazon Prime for a while, and I never did get to see True Blood until probably about 2 years after it went off the air. Somebody gave me the DVDs, and I saw it, and I was watching it, and I'm like, "Wow, this is very Southern Gothic, and Bon Ton and Alden South. What would these vampires be like if they showed up in Jersey? What would Tony Soprano do?" So that was kind of the lead thing. And I live in Jersey. I didn't specifically grow up in Jersey. I was born in Philly, and I went to college in Pittsburgh. But as soon, when I came back, my parents were in Jersey, and that was the '80s. So I've been here quite a while. And as soon as I saw the opening scene of The Sopranos, it was like my neighbor. So, it was a very authentic, grounded New Jersey thing. And Vampires was my first comic, and I always liked the way Marvel grounded things by New York. You'll see the Chrysler Building in the comic. You'll see, so my comics are all based on real places, and I try and ground them that way. And most of them are New Jersey based, although they do go outside of New Jersey to do different things. But when I was doing my doctorate, I would write 200 pages, give it to my chair, and he would say, this is crap, and throw it out. And then I would start writing again. So I said to myself, I want to write something that nobody's going to throw out, just for me. And usually when I've written in the past, I'm an independent filmmaker. So, when you write, you're thinking, well, I can't blow up like 100 cars, like Spielberg. I have to write within my budget in order to be able to film it. So I never let myself go before and said, what if I was writing a movie or a Netflix streaming series that I want to see? And that became Vampires in New Jersey. And I got crazy lucky because I posted online for an artist. And my wife, who doesn't read comics, she's like, look, I don't know comic books, but pick a great artist. Don't pick a sucky artist. Like, if you really believe in this, get somebody great. So she saw an artist. She liked him. He was a little more than everybody else, but she was like, that is good. So I ended up not knowing who he was, but his name's Mahathir Bhuang, and he drew Silver Surfer for Marvel in the early 2000s. And then he also drew some Walking Dead at the same time. So he actually did the initial layouts and the original work with me on original characters for Vampires in New Jersey. And that was the basis. And then once I finished the comic, I took it to my local store here in Mount Holly, New Jersey, Ron's Comic World. And I said, Ron, what do you think? And he said, well, the paper's good. Why don't I stick it up here and we'll see. And I was like, okay. And then the next day, a friend of mine texted me and he goes, dude, I went to get your comic and it's sold out. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, it's gone. I was like, nothing there. So that was about 4 or 5 years ago. It's sold out at every store it's been in. It's been in 25 stores in the kind of the tri-state area from Philly up to almost New York. Sold out at Jay and Silent Bob's, Secret Stash, every issue 6 times, according to Mike. I didn't know. I was like, I actually went up to thank Kevin Smith for even putting it in there because his attitude, and Mike, I forget Mike's last name, but he was in comic Zapchick. He was in Comic Book Men, which I never saw, but I knew it was like a thing. And when I met him, he just goes, look, Kevin loves independent people. We're going to put your book right up front here with DC and Marvel. And then I checked with him a month later, and he was like, because you're kind of afraid to check when you're indie because you're like, well, I don't have barcodes or anything. I don't know. They're going to tell me, dude, I had to throw your comic in the trash or something because people hated it. So you're always thinking worst case scenario. So it was like, hey, Mike, I just called, to see how you're doing. He's like, dude, your comic sold out. You got something. So, I've been lucky with my books.
So let's talk a little bit about this because obviously you've taken a very different approach where you've actually done the indie because the first few issues were not Kickstarted.
No, actually, Kickstarter was, I think, my 6th issue. So I had done 5 issues, and I also have spin-offs. So I have Blackjack, who's a superhero whose powers change without his control. It's like X-Files meets Unbreakable. And I have Werewolves of Brooklyn, which is a biker crew from Brooklyn that you can hire to do anything. They just happen to be werewolves. And that's like Sons of Anarchy meets The Howling.
Because you paid your dues in indie in a lot of ways. And this is something that I think people don't understand is that there's a lot of people, and I'm not discounting them because they're decent writers and they have great books, but all their books have been on Kickstarter. And they've taken a certain model, whether they're paying themselves back or kicking it forward to the next book. That's neither here nor there. But you actually got into stores first and have paid the dues in the actual indie world before Kickstarter. I think that's something that you deserve a lot of respect for, as well as that's something that I think every indie creator to some degree should do on some level.
Yeah, I recommend it.
That's paying your dues, and that's actually what being independent is. First and foremost, it's not Kickstarter first, and which is the new indie in a lot of ways. And
it is. I find when I see people post, I have a comic, I don't know what to do with it. I find that if you take it to your local, everybody has a local comic store if you buy comics, right? Take it there, talk to them about it, see if they'll put it in there, and then you'll get feedback on whether it's good or not. Because initially I did a graphic novel of Who is Jose Luck, and it was horrible. I actually posted, I think I didn't send it to Image, but I sent it to Diamond, and they sent me this really horrible letter back. And somebody was complaining. I was cleaning out a desk, and I got all my rejection letters from publishers. And I posted them and I said, look, you guys think this is an overnight thing. I've done 5 Kickstarters. They all funded, it's over X amount of dollars. I said, look, first thing I did was horrible, according to everybody, including my wife. That's one of the reasons she said, get a better artist. And I didn't know what I didn't know. But once I went back and read that letter, I said, well, everything they said was wrong. It hurt my feelings, but they were right. The feedback helped. And that's what makes vampires so successful. I took that and I, worked on the product. A lot of people get that criticism and they quit. And you really shouldn't. You should take it and say, well, maybe I can do something better. And maybe you can and maybe you can't, but you never know unless you try.
Yeah, I mean, people think that this entire show and my first show just happened. I've been podcasting for almost 10 years now,
You were
and
saying.
I am now just starting to get good. That's what's crazy. And people are like, you've been doing it for 10 years and you're just starting to get good? And I'm like, yeah, because I don't know what I knew legitimately 8 years ago that I
Right.
know today. And I don't know how to explain it to somebody, but when I charge to consult, and people are like, you're charging X amount of money. I'm like, because I legitimately can save you 8 years of frustration in an
Right.
hour.
It's a
That's
decade.
why I'm charging $50 for podcasting consulting. And I legitimately can save people 8 years of frustration. And that's something that people don't get. And people attack me for it. I'm like, okay, fine. If 8 years of your life is worth $50, you know what? You're right, is my solution. But that's kind of crazy. But I do want to talk about the issue a little bit because issue 7 and issue 8, now everything is coming to a head. There's a lot of stuff going on. They're sort of on this quest, and the world of New Jersey and the tri-state area and the world that you've built, which is, Black Jackets and Werewolves in Brooklyn, and which is a Westchester, which is how I got into you. And I don't know as much as about Bunny in Space, or Bunny
Yeah.
Goes to Space.
Yeah, it's a shared universe series of comics. So sooner or later, everybody will bump into each other.
It's starting to happen, and pieces are starting to move a lot in your
Yeah.
world.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to do, as an indie person, 10 issues with an artist to kind of create something. And when I was a kid, I loved like certain comics and I liked certain artists with that comic. And I always felt like, to me, when they changed artists, like it changed the comic and it lost something to me. So I'm trying to do like a solid block of 10 issues with vampires with Connor Cole, who's the interior artist. And I'd like to do that for each one of my titles and mix them together after they're established. So with this, I wrote 4 issues, which will probably be the last 4 issues of this volume. Um, all roads lead to Jersey. So basically, the big bad is the disciples of Vlad, who are descendants of the original vampire. And my guy, is it over that shoulder, this shoulder, that shoulder? Cassidy, Cass, he is heir to the throne if he can survive. I think it's 10 duos of ninja killer vampires from around the world. So one's from China, one's from Africa, just to bring everything in. But I named it All Roads Lead to Jersey because they're all coming here to get him. And him and his comrades have to battle him. So yeah, it's getting bigger and better. Probably the last issue. I thought it would be the 10th issue, but the way Connor's drawing it, it looks like it'll probably go up to 11 issues. Because I hand it off to him and it comes out the way it comes out. And so far, everybody's very excited the way it's come out. I mean, they're just like, this is, this art is really like different, which is one of the reasons I work with him. And nobody knows him. I mean, when I met Kevin Smith, he looks at the interior and he's just like, dude, who's drawing your interiors? And I'm like, he's like my secret weapon, Kevin, because nobody knows him. He works on the West Coast. He has a full-time job with a famous mouse house. And I'm his side gig. And yeah, exactly. I'm a side gig and I'm lucky, to work with him. And we have a great, after 8 issues, it's kind of like I write it and he sees it. And he, after the first one or the second one, he's like, what do you want me to change? And I'm like, I don't know even what to say to you. Cause once something's selling out and people like the artwork, that's it. I mean, what else do you want? So,
Because to even go into that, because I'm obviously working on a project that, the interior art is, I already know how that's going to be taken care of, but I am looking for the next generation of cover artists. And so I am looking at and finding people, and I've already started compiling a list of people who nobody knows who they are, but their artwork is off the chart. And I know the
Right.
second that I drop it, I'm going to sell out of 150 covers with certain people immediately. And
Yeah.
so I'm smart enough that I'm looking for secret weapons, and I'm looking for the next generation now, but is already established that
Mhm.
everybody's going to want in 5 years. Because if I don't find them, somebody else will. And so, what is
Yeah.
that like for you? That you found somebody who, after you're done with Vampires in New Jersey, that person is going to be able to pick whatever project they want to be on, and people are going to want, Connor on their
Yeah.
books, and he's
Yeah.
going to have a choice.
Yeah. It's
Uh,
kind of weird because he draws with me for fun, basically, because I just hand it to him and he does whatever he does at this point. So I don't know if, him working with somebody else would be comfortable for him because I don't even put a time limit on it. I mean, this comic should have been done probably last summer, you know, but
but
it's so
wouldn't that ruin
rushed.
it though? Wouldn't that ruin how it's coming out if you put
And that's the
time?
thing. It's do you want something half baked and rushed, or do you want the guy to do what he does? And I have the luxury with these other titles that I can put them out and people really like them. I mean, Bunny was kind of a fluke. I mean, I came up with the character I guess it's been a year and a half ago, towards the end of the first year of COVID, I guess 2020. And I was like, I want to do something different. I want to do like a space, like opera, like comedy, sexy, adult oriented comic. And I was like, I like the character to be like Harley Quinn meets Barbarella and just have fun with it. And I said that to the artists that I work with, and they were like, we love this. We love that idea. I watched a lot of sci-fi stuff in the 70s that was retro 60s. It was supposed to be the future, but it looks archaic. So it's kind of like a retro futuristic look to it. And that exploded on Kickstarter and created, I wanted to test the character to see if people would even like me to do a first issue. So it was just a big experiment and it blew up. So, you know, when I'm working with that, that's giving me other things to do besides vampires. But the mainstay with Connor, I mean, I would do that, forever if he was willing to do it forever.
No, because it's just one of those things that obviously you don't want to rush greatness. I used to have an
Yeah,
editor working on my podcast. And he's like, when do you need it? I'm like, do it whenever you want to do it. And I was paying him and everything. But I said, you edit my work really well. That
mhm,
if I don't release an episode on time, but it
right,
turns out correct, what do I care? Because I'm looking at the long game versus the short game.
right,
And the episodes my editor has edited, they do really well on my first show, and they're still
right,
doing well because he edited it so that it makes me sound like $1,000,000 and it makes my guests sound great. And you can't rush perfection in a
right.
lot of ways. But there's a lot of other things going on as well with this, and I really do want to talk about some stuff because I know you got a hard deadline. I'm gonna save your marketing team. I'm saving your marketing team right now. I promise. I
Yeah,
got like 20 minutes, guys.
look,
So
I committed to you. I'm going to stay as long as you want me to. So,
no, I'm gonna make sure your other guest gets enough of you as well. So
yeah,
I'm more than generous on this one, and we'll do a
nice.
part two at some point.
Yeah,
Um,
anytime.
but there's a lot of stuff going on. But one of the things that you do really well is that you got a fuck ton of covers this round,
Yeah,
and
it's kind of insane because I delayed, like everybody did a Kickstarter in January. So I kind of delayed mine because Connor was still working on the comic. And the longer I delay something, once I give the initial go, people start contacting me saying, "Hey, I want to do a cover. Hey, I'd like to do a cover." And I'm contacting, I see different people. So it just kept growing and growing and growing.
so
And
we're gonna
yeah,
show
it's
them.
turned into a lot of covers. Yeah.
So we're gonna show a bunch of them, and
Okay.
hopefully, I'm not gonna get taken down on Facebook or YouTube for some of them. So
Well, they're kind of covered up, you
So
know.
so that's one of them.
Yeah,
This
it's
is
Bob
another.
Harris.
So that's obviously Vampire Ninjas. This is
Yeah,
another
that's
one.
one of the teams.
So this is another one, and Sean Howell does a lot of stuff. And what I like
Yeah,
about what you did is that there's a naughty version of this, and it's a different cover completely, which is a nice touch in a lot of ways.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Sean's awesome.
what is that like to do a different naughty version of
Well,
sort of giving it to cover B for that same artist, for lack of
yeah, I started working with Wendy Shaner, and that was something that she did, and I kind of learned it from her. I kind of let the artists go with what they want to, whatever it is they want to do. So I give them, like with this, there's twin vampires that are shapeshifters, two women, Wanda and Banda. So I describe the vampires, and then I let them do what they want to do. Now, Sean, in his case, he had an idea of what he wanted to do, and it's always cool. So I kind of let them run with how they feel about what they want to do.
And
So,
then going further into this, because obviously this is Courtney Rose, and she's killing
yeah,
it right now.
yeah, she's very amazing. Courtney, much love out to you. She was just in an accident, but she's on the mend, and I just I hope she's okay. But her work is brilliant. I mean, it's unbelievable. You know.
And then another one to just throw out there is Axbone, and I don't know much about Axbone. I just seen that name a lot as of lately around.
Yeah, I think he just finished his own Lady Ragnarok, but I work with him on a couple of covers already, and he's another one. He's just like phenomenal with what he wants to do. Trevor's another one.
Yeah,
He's
yeah, yeah.
next.
I was too soon on that one. This is Trevor, and I'm not too sure if there's a nice version of this book.
No, Trevor's very busy, and when I catch him, I don't think he's ever done more than one picture for me. But even his nice are kind of naughty, because he did one for witches, and it looks
Hey, that book was
it looks
perfectly appropriate.
yeah, it looks to me it looks naughty, but she's fully dressed, so it's kind of like he can get his naughtiness into that niceness.
This is
He's very
not
talented.
appropriate. I'm
Yeah,
just gonna
no,
throw
not
that
that
out
one.
there.
Yeah, that one definitely just went straight naughty. But yeah, I usually get at least one cover from Trevor if
And
I'm
then
lucky. He's a
there's a
busy
few
guy.
more.
Dude, everybody's busy. You'd be surprised.
Oh, believe me, I
They're cranking.
understand that completely. I
Yeah,
mean,
they're
I'm
very
trying to
busy.
book guests, and I'm lucky enough that people are now paying to be on my show. So that
Yeah,
saves me nice. And a bunch of people just wound up paying for guaranteed guests on my show because I
yeah,
book a lot of guests.
yeah,
But it's the idea that I know exactly how busy everybody is because
yeah,
everybody's gearing up for a lot of Kickstarters, and they're coming in
yeah,
March and April and May are going to be rough on
yeah,
people's wallets. And I'm
yeah. I was
telling
trying
you.
to slide in there real quick, get in and get out.
And so, yeah, that's kind of one of the things
Gregorio,
I ran in January.
excuse me. Gregorio is another one. He did 3 covers for this, and he actually is working on a cover for. Actually got another comic finished before this comic. Werewolves of Brooklyn 2 is done, and I'll be doing probably a Kickstarter for that later this year. So a lot of them have already done covers for that too.
And
Of
CB
course,
Zane.
CB Zane, always iconic covers. He's another one where I just kind of mention something and he gets it. You know?
He's really good, and at some
Yeah,
point, and maybe this year, I'll be booking something. Hopefully, with CB Zane, if we can get on his list.
yeah, he's amazing, and he's a really nice guy. I actually went to the Baltimore Comic Con, and a lot of the artists I work with were there, and that was one of the reasons I went. And CB was there, and I got to meet him and hang out with him a little bit. He's a great guy.
He's been on my show twice, and it's always good when he's on.
Yeah, he's fun.
And he's great for that. And then obviously, this is Wendy's cover.
Great Wendy. Wendy's realistic pictures. My roommate from college literally asked me if I could get the digits of one of her covers. He said, "Do you know that model? Can I get her number?" And I was like, "Well, I would if I could, but she's not real." He didn't even believe me. So Wendy's work is always brilliant. Steph.
Yeah, this
Steph,
is Steph Wilson, classic
yep,
Steph Wilson. Steph was just on my
yeah,
show. So,
yeah.
so Steph is great.
I met Steph before he blew up everywhere at a teeny tiny con 2 years ago, and we talked. I didn't know much about his art then, and then by the time my Kickstarter came around 4 months later, he was everywhere, and I was like, I can't believe I'm working with this guy. But him and his wife have been like family to me. I mean, they're really super cool. They were in Jersey, but they moved a little bit, but they were in Baltimore too. So I got to hang out with them
And
a little
this
bit
is a
too.
cool cover because you could technically flip it the other way
Yeah,
around, and
yeah,
it's still correct.
yeah. And they actually did something for Werewolves of Brooklyn already too.
And so this is a really cool cover. And then
Yeah,
this one is awesome too because I was Keith Garvey's first interview. So
really.
that's a little history about Keith Garvey and me. And
Yeah,
I just had the audacity to ask him for an interview way
yeah. I
back.
can't believe he works with me. Yeah, he's kind of elusive, but I just like email him. Like you have to know how to communicate with people the way they like to be communicated with. I always think people are on, they're on Facebook and it's easy to, instant message. With him, it was email. So I emailed him, we talked and discussed it. Now it's just like, Al, what's your project? What do you want? Psh, boom, pop, pop. It comes right out, So he's another great one. I'm lucky to work with.
Yeah, he's great. And I have to figure out when I'm getting him back on my show. It's
Yeah.
been playing email tag, unfortunately.
Mhm.
And then this is cool too. And this is Greg Watson, and he's just classic.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw something by Greg Bow and I just immediately contacted him. And Gwen actually had mentioned him to me before because she did some coloring for CB. And she asked to work on the next Bunny project because she really liked the character.
And then
So we'll be working together a lot.
and then I'm missing a few, and I'm not going to show every foil, every
It's okay.
nude. There's a
Yeah,
bunch,
they're on the Kickstarter. People want to see them, they can just go up there.
but I do want to talk about this side of things because you take
Oh
a
yeah.
model approach. This is a whole different ball game now.
Well,
So,
I worked with Kara Nicole the first time, and I never thought anybody interpreting a character of mine, he, really said like, "Tell me about this character." And Kara's more like an actress than she is a cosplay person because she really embodies whatever she does.
some
I call
relation.
her like a Bowie-ish type of person because she's like a chameleon. But after that experience, I started, you know, saying, well, maybe I'll work with models. Then I saw Christy here on Instagram, and she's in Austria, and she had agreed to do it, and then COVID hit, and she actually was just recovering when she got me these pictures. But yeah, there's a good number of models out there, and they're not cosplay. I mean, this is how they dress. This is their lifestyle, which I like. It's very authentic, you know.
So,
But
so, so to even
it's
talk about
really
that,
nice.
because obviously we've all seen cosplay covers,
Yeah,
and I know a lot of people book cosplay covers. I have a lot of people I interview and things of that nature that purposely go for cosplay covers because they do sell. But I
right.
haven't seen the model side of things, and obviously there's some model stuff with the I guess trading cards in the Witches of Westchester, and that's sort of a different approach because it's a little bit different in that regard and also hits a different demographic to some degree. It's also saying, hey, I'm going to be very nice, but I'm a little sick of cosplayers on comic
Right,
covers. I want something
right.
a little different now. And this
Yeah,
definitely taps that niche.
yeah. There's a good number of goth, for my vampireness, goth models all around the world. One of them's from France, one of them's from Austria. I worked with one last time in England. Baby Bat, I don't know where she's from, but she's amazing.
Yes.
And she's on these ladies are on Instagram. So anybody listening, go on there and follow them because they're brilliant. They really
Yeah.
are, and they're very nice. You know.
Because I mean, and then she's
Yeah.
also on Instagram. And then there's
Oh
more.
yeah. Well, she's a Jersey girl, and I bumped into her. I was introduced to her by a friend, and I've known her for years. She does many things, burlesque. She reads, does card readings. She does her own art. She's quite amazing, and yeah, her pictures came out great too.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something very cool. And then the other side that you've done is you also done some cosplay. So obviously December Lace, everybody knows who
Yeah,
December Lace is.
I met December. Well, excuse me. We've talked back and forth for about a year. I met her in Baltimore too. So it was kind of like going to Baltimore. I got to see like 10 people that I've been talking to online for years. But I thought, even though I didn't know how the con was going to go, it went okay. But the key was I got to hang out with all those people, you know. which was
Yeah,
fantastic.
it's something that, I haven't been to a con in a long time. I don't know if I'm
Yeah.
ever going back.
Yeah.
And at this stage in the game, I have, and I'm not saying I've networked perfectly, but my network has like legitly 10x in the last 3 years, I would say. Because when you're doing
Hmm.
all these interviews and you're talking, get into all these groups, you just start coming across a lot of people and a lot of
Right.
different passions, and then other people know people, and then all of a sudden, I think as of the end of tomorrow, I've interviewed, I think, 224 unique guests in about
Wow.
26 months, which
Yeah.
is unique guests, not because I've had repeat people on, but that's kind of where I'm at. And that gives me a
Right.
lot of access to a lot of different people.
Right.
But that's something that I obviously miss to some degree and will always miss, is that I might not discover a cosplayer and make that connection on a network level, which is understandable, but
Right.
you can see me lose some. And then
Yeah. Yeah. It's a tough decision. And of course, the great Kara Nicole. This was actually from my first Kickstarter. One picture we had left over, and I know her fans like to collect her stuff, so I kind of dug it out and said, "Well, here's a rare Kara Nicole cover."
and
She's
so
fantastic. Her and Alex are amazing.
yeah, because it's just one of those things that obviously people like to collect, and then I'm just gonna throw this up, and there's a few of her out there.
Yeah, not
And
even familiar. She's another Jersey girl that literally I've been talking to for years. I see her at cons, and last time I saw her was New Jersey Horror Con, and I just said, "Would you like to do? You do some cool pictures. Would you like to do a cover?" And that was it.
and then obviously this is another one, Cora Fit Metal.
Yeah, Cora Fit Metals from France, and I actually was going to have her on my launch show, but she said my English isn't that good, and I said, "Well, my French is non-existent." So, she said, "When my English gets better, she'll do a podcast with me." But she was really charming, as far as like, and these women are, they're very, if they're on there and they're Instagram models, most of them, not all of them, but most of them that I've dealt with, they're very professional. You know, which pictures do you like? What would you like to do with them? Can I get copies of the comic? You know,
Yeah,
and with PayPal and everything, it's easy to do these transactions around the world.
yeah. I booked a metal card with a cosplayer who's a friend of mine, and it was easy. He's like, "Yo, I'll send you like 20 pictures. You figure out what you want to do with it."
Right.
And the deal was equity. It wasn't
Yeah,
paying.
as long as you work out what's comfortable for both parties. Yeah.
We both wanted equity, which was great. It
Yeah.
was the easiest transaction ever
Mhm.
because the equity is worth more than if I was to pay him 300, because he needs merchandise. I need merchandise. I wanted something cool, and it worked out beautiful, but it was
Cool.
easy. So I was like, "Hey, you want to do something?" And then I reached out to like 3 or 4 other people, and then they get back to me. And I was like, "Cool, we're just going to do it with you, then, man. It works perfectly fine." But
Yeah.
it's very interesting how people are professional and all that stuff working out. And
Yeah.
then this is obviously just what a foil looks like, and I picked the
Yeah.
Keith Garvey because I like the Keith Garvey, and it's gonna look a lot more shiny. I want to say, I want to make it
Mhm.
crystal clear that this thing's gonna look a hell of a lot more shiny
Yeah.
in person.
Yeah. The
Um,
foils are beautiful.
and so, and every cover that I showed, and I think I missed a few. I think there's a bunch of foils of every single cover, and
Yeah, we try and give everybody every option. So it's a lot to look at, but if you can think of it, it's probably there.
what do you have? Legitly like 40 covers.
I'd say, yeah. Yeah.
So
Russ,
what?
Russ Cassidy actually works on the back end, and he tells me, "Oh, well, it's this many. Jesus, holy mac, it's growing. It's out of control."
Who
You
who
know,
who works on the back end?
Russ Cassidy.
Yeah, yeah, because he does editing work for Counterpoint, right?
Yeah, I think so. I just know he's worked on many, many, many Kickstarters.
Yeah, because I saw his profile, and I think he does some editing for
Mhm.
Counterpoint, which is cool.
Yeah, I got
Um,
lucky to work with him.
so yeah, but even going forward, what is that like? Because it does give, and obviously you're taking a break from not being in stores, but once you have all these covers, obviously you print them, you bring them to cons, and then how does that even all work? Having so
Well, the covers, I don't offer Kickstarter covers except for Kickstarter. So unless you buy it through, like I have Indiegogo stores for Witches of Westchester on demand store and Bunny Goes to Space on demand store. But I really don't. first of all, when I do a con, I had a couple prints from one of my Kickstarters, like in front of my table. Mothers were covering their kids' eyes as they were walking by, like I broke the law. So I'm more comfortable selling my graphic novels with these covers and, my regular comics with the regular covers at the cons. So the Kickstarter covers I really want to keep just for Kickstarter people. So I won't have like 100 covers there, like Jim Noble. I don't know how Jim does it. Jim was in Baltimore too, and he had a bazillion, covers, and you know how Jim's covers are. So he was popular with a certain set and controversial with another set. But Jim's Jim. I call him the Hugh Hefner of comic books.
I am very much a hybrid, and the company I want to build is a hybrid of Jim, but toned down to fewer SKUs. And because I do want to give a lot of choice, but I do not want to go crazy with 300 different covers.
Yeah, it gets out of control. I mean, Jim told me he had like over 100 on one, and I was just like, I don't even know how you do stuff like that.
Yeah, we talked about that. It was a very, very interesting interview, and that's all I'm going to say is that it was a very, very interesting interview, and me basically going through his entire Kickstarter covers in an entire interview, and I was like, you better send me free books for this. So he owes me free books by definition, because I legitimately went through every single cover he had on his Kickstarter, and oh my God, just that's a lot of covers. It's a lot of merchandise.
It is. And, it's nonstop.
I don't know how people do it.
Yep.
I'm going to barely be able to handle 5 covers, let alone like 40.
Yeah, I'm at my limit now. I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, if I hadn't waited so long to launch, it would have been less covers. It just kept growing, and people, I'm interested in this project. So, I'm like I want to say yes guy, especially if it's a really quality person who's going to create something.
And also, it's the idea that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if you have a foil cover and nobody picks up that foil, do you print one copy of that foil, or do you print like 5 copies of that foil, or do you
usually for the artist, I'll do a certain amount of comps just to have them. If nobody buys that foil, I probably won't print that foil. But with my stuff, it's like there's always a few, and if it's 1 or 2, I'm going to get at least 5. If it's 5, I'm probably going to get 10, to have them. And then once I put things on that in-demand store, I'm getting orders from there. Not a lot of orders, but because I'm too busy with this other stuff, but I am getting orders, as they come in. So the stuff moves.
Yeah, I mean, I run an eBay store, so I know the idea, but I'm not on demand. But obviously, I like, and the way I'm setting up my business is I'm going to have a limited 200 print. And once the 200 are gone, they're gone. And I prefer to do it that way versus unlimited, because that's just what I believe in. But also, you have some other cool stuff with this, where you have obviously the graphic novels, which are cool, which people can pick up if they just want to catch up on all the stories, because people have missed some of these issues. You have an art book. And then, you just got a lot of stuff going on with this, where if somebody just says, hey, I don't really care about the variants, but I just want the entire story. That's also an option with your Kickstarter right now.
Yeah, you can get whatever whatever you're comfortable with. I know certain people like certain artists, but there are some people that want the whole shared universe, and you can get it, and some of them are tangentially linked and some are directly linked, but it's all one big picture.
And so there's a lot of choice. And I mean, there's something for everybody, where you can go very much tame with some of these covers, and you can go all the way up to pretty much going naughty into an X-rated cover and whatever floats your boat. Or you could have somewhat of a hybrid in between everybody, for those who are interested in that entire sector and everything with this. And while people might come for the covers, they're probably going to enjoy the story too.
Yeah. I mean, the key for me is, read it and enjoy it. So hopefully people do that. But you get what you want. I mean, if some people want just, prints or, just that cover. I mean, that's fine. At least they're getting into something that I've done, which is the key.
And sometimes, and I back Kickstarters because there's a great cover by somebody that I enjoyed as a cover artist. And then I realized that, oh, wow, the story is really good. And
Yeah,
as a result, sometimes you get in with one way and then
yeah,
you wind up staying for the stories. That's how I got into Zenoscope, is that I
yeah,
really like their covers. And then I'm like, oh, wow, this is actually a pretty good story. And
yeah,
now I am both a story guy and I'm a cover guy, but I don't read Zenoscope in print. I read it digitally, which is
right.
something that's very cool as well.
Mhm.
And there's digital copies of these books as well that you offer. So somebody can pick up a digital copy and not have to touch their $40 foil, open it up and crack it open and keep it
Yeah,
nice and mint and smell. And the way it smells, it's going to be the way it always smells. So
yeah,
new comics smell nice sometimes. But
yeah.
anyway, that's everything. I'm doing it really quick because I want to get you to your next interview. I'm making
Well,
sure your market team's actually bringing in what they're supposed to be paid for here. I understand that your market team is not going to pass today. But obviously, and you're always welcome back on. I'm sure that when you launch Werewolves in Brooklyn, the last arc, you'll either hit me up or I'll hit you up.
yeah,
And
anytime.
we'll go that route. But where can people find this Kickstarter? Where can people find you on the internet? Where can people bother you, pick up what they want? If they see something they want and it's not on the Kickstarter, how can they possibly get it and all that jazz?
Yeah, well, I'm on Vampires of NJ on Instagram, and I have a Facebook Vampires of New Jersey page. And of course, I have the Kickstarter, Vampires of New Jersey #8, and the art book. And then I also have Indiegogo store, two of them, one for Witches of Westchester, #1, and art book, and then one for Bunny Goes to Space, the art book. So you can reach me through any of that. You know, I'm easy.
And then I've been saying it, I'm going to keep saying it, you have to support indie. And what that means is you have to back Kickstarters. So obviously every dollar that's raised on a Kickstarter goes to making the book better, goes into producing the next book, goes into printing the book, goes
Yeah.
into, stretch goals, new cover artists, all that stuff. And
Yep.
it really matters. Furthermore, I get it, money's tight. And if money's tight in your world, I've been there, everybody's been there, and you can't back a project, you can still share out that project. You could share it out into Facebook groups, Twitter, Instagram. You could TikTok about it. You could just tell your friends, send them a link to the Kickstarter. It goes a
Mm-hmm.
long way because that stuff matters. And it is
Yep.
important in today's age to do both, but at least do one because both those things do help to get projects funded. And even if a project is funded, the more money that's thrown at that project, the further that project goes, and it goes for the next round too. And so
Yeah.
keep that in mind when you push that out there. So that's something that is massively important. And as far as I'm concerned about me, obviously I'm independent too. I just
Right.
successfully funded on Kickstarter, but I always need money, and there's a million ways how you can support me. I have a Redbubble shop that you can buy my T-shirt on. You can check out my eBay store where I have some cool stuff from the Kickstarter, from some merchandise that did not fully sell. That's a cool metal card. Or better yet, what I really appreciate is when people share out my interviews and actually say, hey, let me share this out into a Facebook group. Let me actually like your Facebook page. Let me subscribe on YouTube, which is Pop Anime Comics, because that
Right.
stuff does matter to me just as much. Or better yet, use my sponsor codes to print your comic books. Or if you have comic supplies, BCW Supplies is a sponsor of mine. Pop Anime Comics, 10% off your entire order. And that
Right.
stuff does matter when you're buying comic supplies and if you're buying a lot of it. So those are ways how to support me and any other sponsors I have. And so on that note, I'm going to give you the final word.
Well, thanks for having me on. I'll come back anytime you want to just talk.
You're welcome.
I'm
Always.
always working on something. So, not just when I'm doing a Kickstarter, but anytime you want to talk, about the industry or what's going on or anything like that, just give me a call.
Oh, I will absolutely, and I will get you in on your next Kickstarter. Whenever it launches, I am sure that I will fit you in somehow, somewhere, and we'll make it work. And I look forward to it. And on that note, I believe this is a wrap, everybody.
Thank you, Andrew.